The city of Bucharest woke slowly, like a man who had been sleeping too long and wasn't sure he wanted to stop. Cobblestone streets glistened under a gray November sky. Trams rattled through narrow boulevards. Old women sold flowers outside iron-gated courtyards. And in a third-floor apartment above a bakery on Strada Mihai Eminescu, a man who no longer had a name worth saying made coffee. His name was Ethan Cole, 41 years old, broad shoulders, eyes the color of gunmetal, a face that had forgotten how to be surprised. He had served 14 years in the United States Army, the last 7 in Delta Force, 3 deployments to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan, 1 to a place the government still refused to acknowledge existed. He had done things that saved lives. He had done things that kept him awake at 3 a.m. And when the war had taken everything it could take from him, Ethan Cole had quietly handed in his credentials and disappeared. No forwarding address, no social media, just a small apartment, a bakery downstairs, and the disciplined, unremarkable life of a man who asked nothing from the world and expected nothing in return. That morning, he had 2 things planned: a run along the river and a quiet read at the cafe on the corner. Neither of those things happened. He had just laced his boots when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. The creak of a floorboard on the landing outside his door. At 6:45 in the morning, Ethan went very still. The old instincts didn't ask permission, they simply arrived. He moved to the side of the door, away from the center. 3 seconds of silence. Then a folded piece of paper slid under the door. Ethan looked at it for a long moment. He picked it up, unfolded it. 4 words. They're going to kill LAZLO. Below the words, a photograph. A man Ethan recognized immediately. Ambassador Nikolai LAZLO, former NATO diplomatic liaison. The man who had personally negotiated the release of 3 American operatives from a black site. A man Ethan owed his life to. Ethan opened the door. The landing was empty. He moved to the window. The street below showed only an old woman with flowers and a black sedan idling at the corner. It pulled away the moment he looked at it. The hunt had begun. Ethan Cole was no longer retired. Precise, relentless, cold. Ethan sat at his kitchen table, the photograph in front of him. He turned it over. On the back, in small, precise handwriting, Vienna, 72 hours, summit dinner. They already have a man inside. Ethan exhaled slowly. He had not spoken to anyone in the intelligence community for 3 years, had not touched a weapon in nearly 2. He was done. He had told himself that, had believed it. But Ambassador LAZLO's face stared up at him from the photograph, and Ethan remembered a cold room in Minsk, a blindfold being removed, and a voice, calm, steady, accented, saying, "You are safe now. My word on it." LAZLO's word, which had proven true. Ethan looked out the window. The black sedan was gone, but its absence felt louder than its presence. He pulled up a burner laptop from under the floorboard beneath his bed, the same one he kept charged and clean and untouched, because some part of him had always known, quiet lives have a way of ending. He ran a search. LAZLO was in the news, scheduled to attend the Vienna diplomatic summit in 71 hours, a gathering of 12 European and NATO ambassadors, a dinner at the Palais Schwarzenberg. One of the most photographed, most celebrated events on the diplomatic calendar, which also made it the perfect place to kill someone. Because in a crowd of dignitaries, surrounded by security theater, one man could die of what looked like a cardiac event, and no one would ask the right questions until it was far too late. Ethan stared at the screen. He thought about his run, his cafe, his quiet street. Then he closed the laptop, stood up, and began to pack. The train from Bucharest to Vienna took 11 hours. Ethan spent most of it looking out the window, watching the landscape shift from flat Romanian plains to the rolling hills of Hungary. Then the ordered symmetry of Austrian countryside, green, precise, beautiful in a way that felt almost deliberate. He arrived at Wien Hauptbahnhof at noon, checked into a small hotel 3 blocks from the Ringstrasse under a false name, paid cash, smiled at no one. The room was clean, modest. He set his bag on the bed and stood at the window. Vienna spread out below him. Baroque palaces, coffee houses, horse-drawn carriages on cobblestone lanes. And somewhere in this city, A man was preparing to commit murder. Ethan needed two things: information and a contact. He had one option for both. A woman named Vera Sandor, Hungarian-born, former Interpol analyst, now working independently as what polite people called a security consultant, what less polite people called something else entirely. She owed him nothing, but she had worked a parallel operation to his unit in Kabul years ago, and they had once spent 4 hours pinned down behind the same collapsed wall. That counted for something. He found her in the second place he looked, a wine bar near the Naschmarkt. She looked up as he approached. Her expression did not change. "Ethan Cole," she said. "You look terrible." "Thank you," he said, sitting down. "I need help." She put the book down. "I know." He looked at her. "You already know?" Vera lowered her voice. "I got the same note you did. 2 days ago." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Who sent it?" "That," she said, "is the question I've been trying to answer for 48 hours. She slid a thin folder across the table. "But I found something else instead." Ethan opened it. Inside were surveillance photographs, the Palais Schwarzenberg, staff schedules, a floor plan of the dinner venue, and one photograph that made the muscles in his jaw tighten. A man in a catering uniform, young, unremarkable face, except for the tattoo on the back of his right hand, a snake eating its own tail. Ethan recognized it. "Ouroboros," he said quietly. Vera nodded. "You know the symbol?" "From a mission in Istanbul 3 years ago. It's the mark of a private contractor network called SERAPH. They don't take political sides, they take payments." He tapped the photograph. "This man is going to be in that building." "Yes," Vera confirmed. "And if SERAPH is involved, whoever commissioned this has serious money and serious reach." Ethan turned to the next page in the folder. A name, one he did not expect. General Warren Bryce, retired. Former Deputy Commander of NATO Allied Forces Europe, an American. Ethan set the folder down very slowly. "You're saying an American general put a contract on a NATO ambassador?" Vera looked at him steadily. "I'm saying the money trail ends with him. I can't prove intent, but I can prove transfer." Ethan looked out the window at the quiet Viennese street, at the tourists photographing a fountain, at a child feeding pigeons, at the ordinary, beautiful surface of a city where, in less than 48 hours, a man was scheduled to die. "We need to get inside that dinner," he said. Vera smiled for the first time. "I already have credentials for both of us." They spent the next 12 hours preparing. Ethan studied the floor plan until he could walk it blind. Every entrance, every exit, every blind spot in the security camera grid. The Palais Schwarzenberg had 6 cameras on the ground floor dining wing. One, crucially, broken for maintenance, which was not a coincidence. Someone had ensured that gap existed. He and Vera cross-referenced the catering staff roster with every database she could quietly access. The man with the Ouroboros tattoo was listed as Marco Ferris. Clean background, a ghost built in 3 weeks and inserted perfectly. Ethan had done the same thing himself, once, for different reasons. He sat with that thought for a moment, then let it go. "The method," he said. "How do they do it here?" Vera laid out her analysis. "Not a gun, too loud. Not a blade, too close. SERAPH specializes in something else in diplomatic settings. Contact poison, applied to the rim of a specific glass, assigned to a specific seat. LAZLO drinks, LAZLO dies. Medical examiner lists it as sudden cardiac arrest. SERAPH vanishes." Ethan looked at the photograph. "So we stop the glass reaching the table, or we stop Ferris reaching the kitchen." Vera shook her head. "If Ferris doesn't show, SERAPH sends a backup. They always have a backup." Ethan looked at her. "Then we find the backup." He picked up the folder. "Istanbul," he said. "I know someone there who ran intelligence on SERAPH for 2 years. He'll know the backup protocol." Vera looked at the clock. 30 hours. "Can you reach him?" Ethan reached for the burner phone. "I'm about to find out." The phone rang 8 times. Then a voice answered, cautious, accented. "Who is this?" "A name from a long time ago," Ethan said. "Try it." A pause. "Cole?" "Yes." A sound, somewhere between a laugh and a curse. "I heard you were dead." "I heard that too," Ethan replied. "I need SERAPH's backup protocol." Standard diplomatic setting. High-value target. Silence on the line. Then the voice. Yusuf Demir, former MIT intelligence, 3 decades of watching shadows move through the Bosphorus, spoke carefully. You're talking about Vienna. Ethan said nothing, which was answer enough. I have been watching this contract form for 6 weeks, Yusuf said quietly. I was going to warn someone. I didn't know who to trust. You can trust me, Ethan said. I know, said Yusuf. That's why I'm still on the line. He lowered his voice. SERAPH's backup protocol in controlled settings is always structural. If the primary asset is compromised, the target never reaches the event. Ethan straightened. Meaning? The vehicle, Yusuf said. Ambassador LAZLO's motorcade route from the hotel to the Palais. If Ferris is compromised or detected, SERAPH hits the car. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. Do you have the route? I have the route they believe is the route, but LAZLO's security team filed 2 versions. The internal route was changed this morning. SERAPH doesn't know. Ethan absorbed this. So if we stop Ferris inside the dinner, the backup plan hits an empty road. Correct, said Yusuf. But Cole. Yes? The voice dropped even lower. There is a third layer. Someone inside LAZLO's own security detail. A long silence. A name? Ethan asked. I only have a designation. SERAPH calls him the Doorman. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Someone on the inside, who opens the door for whatever comes next. Yes. If you neutralize Ferris and the motorcade plan fails, the Doorman improvises. He'll have a last resort option. Yusuf was quiet for a moment. Ethan. I know, Ethan said. You don't know, Yusuf replied. The Doorman's last resort option is not subtle. What is it? A device, planted in the coat check room adjacent to the dining hall. Remote trigger. Ethan said nothing. You have one asset I don't, Yusuf continued. What's that? You're already there. A pause. Find the Doorman before he needs to use it. And Ethan, be careful who you trust at that table. The line went dead. The dinner began at 7. Ethan arrived at 6:15. Catering credentials courtesy of Vera. White jacket, dark trousers, his name on the staff list as Stefan Mayer, a florist's assistant delivering the final centerpiece arrangements. He moved through the ground floor without hurrying, not looking at the cameras, not avoiding them either. Both were mistakes. He had learned that lesson in Mosul a lifetime ago. Just move like you belong, because belonging is invisible. He located the kitchen passage, entered the staff corridor, found his first landmark, a catering trolley near the cold room door. He crouched briefly, checked underneath. Nothing. Moved on. The dining hall was being set. 12 tables, candelabras, the kind of room where history had been made and unmade over wine and white tablecloths for 3 centuries. He found the coat check room, adjacent to the dining hall entrance, exactly as Yusuf described. He went in on the pretext of checking a floral arrangement near the door. 40 seconds. His eyes swept the room. Coat racks, an umbrella stand, a small table with a guest ledger. He moved methodically. Behind the second coat rack, nothing. Behind the third, a soft black case, barely larger than a hardcover book, zip-tied to the rack's lower horizontal bar, hidden by hanging coats. Ethan crouched. He knew what it was without opening it. He had seen field devices of this type in 2 previous theaters. Remote-triggered fragmentation, small yield, but in a room this size, with that many people, more than enough. He did not disarm it. Not yet. Because if the Doorman was watching, a missing device would trigger immediate improvisation. Something worse. Something he couldn't predict. He left it and went to find Vera. He found Vera near the staff entrance. She was calm. That was one of the things he respected about her. He pulled her aside and spoke quietly. Device in the coat check. I see it on the secondary camera feed, she murmured. The Doorman did it during the afternoon walkthrough. Ethan looked at her. You have eyes on the security detail? I pulled their personnel files this afternoon. She handed him a small folded page. One name had a small red mark beside it. Agent Carl Dice. Dice is the Doorman. Ethan scanned the room. Where is he now? Stationed at the dining hall entrance, standard post. After that, if he hasn't received confirmation, he moves to the coat check. Ethan checked his watch. 6:48. 12 minutes until the guests were seated. Ferris first, he said, then Dice, in that order. Vera nodded. And the device? I'll have it disarmed before Dice reaches the room. He moved toward the kitchen. The kitchen was controlled chaos. 30 staff, steam, heat, the organized fury of fine dining at scale. Ethan located Ferris in 40 seconds. The man with the Ouroboros tattoo was at the wine station, his back to the room, arranging glasses with careful, practiced hands. Ethan approached from the side. He didn't run, didn't raise his voice. He simply moved to the station and said quietly, in the man's ear, "Walk with me." Ferris tensed, a professional's recognition that something had gone wrong. "Don't," Ethan said. "This room has 12 witnesses and no exits except through me." A beat. Ferris exhaled. He set down the glass and walked. Ethan guided him to the staff corridor, into a side room used for linen storage. He closed the door. Ferris turned, assessed Ethan with the flat, professional eyes of a man calculating odds. "SERAPH will send someone else," Ferris said. "I know," Ethan replied, "but the motorcade route changed this morning. Your backup doesn't know, and the device in the coat check won't be reachable in 9 minutes." The calculation in Ferris's eyes shifted. "The contract is dead." Ferris looked at him for a long moment. "Who are you?" "Nobody," said Ethan. "Nobody worth reporting." "Sit down." 7:51. 9 minutes since Ferris had been secured. The dinner was proceeding. Glasses were being filled. The first course was being plated, and in the dining hall entrance, Agent Carl Dice had not moved, which meant he was waiting for a signal that was not coming. Ethan reached the coat check room first. He went directly to the device. 40 seconds. He had worked with this class of trigger mechanism twice before, both times under significantly worse conditions. This one was clean. He neutralized it in 32 seconds, removed the triggering component, left the case, stood up, and came face to face with Carl Dice standing in the doorway. Silence. Dice looked at Ethan's hands, at the component in his right fist. "Staff aren't permitted in here unsupervised," Dice said. "Neither are killers," Ethan replied. Dice's hand moved toward his jacket. Ethan was faster. He crossed the distance in 2 steps. What followed lasted approximately 4 seconds. "It's over," Ethan said quietly. "Ferris is secure. The motorcade route is wrong in your intelligence, and Bryce's account trails have been photographed and transmitted to 3 separate parties in the last 6 hours. Dice stared at him. He stopped resisting. Vera appeared in the doorway 30 seconds later. "Vienna police are 60 seconds out," she said. "Vera." "Yes?" "Ambassador LAZLO." "Safe," she said, seated, eating soup, entirely unaware. Ethan released Dice, stepped back. Dice slid slowly down the wall. From the dining hall, the faint sound of glasses raised in a toast drifted through the walls. Ethan looked at his hands, then looked at Vera. "Who sent us the notes?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "I still don't know." Ethan said nothing. Outside in the corridor, voices. The Vienna police, moving fast. He picked up his jacket. "We need to go." Vera raised an eyebrow. "What about the debrief?" "No debrief," he said. "We're nobodies, remember?" She almost smiled. They left through the service exit, into the cold Vienna night. Behind them, the Palais Schwarzenberg blazed with warm golden light. Music now, laughter, the sounds of 12 ambassadors who had no idea how close the evening had come to ending very differently. They walked 3 blocks before either of them spoke. Vera pulled her coat tighter against the November air. "Bryce will know it failed by morning," she said. "Yes." "He'll know someone intervened." "Yes." "And he'll know it was targeted." "Not random." "Which means he'll try to find out who." Ethan looked at the lit windows of a cafe across the street. "Let him look." "Ethan." He stopped. She was looking at him with an expression he hadn't seen on her face before. Something cautious. Something almost hesitant. "There were 12 names on the original SERAPH contract manifest," she said. "The one I accessed this afternoon." He turned slowly. "I thought the contract was for LAZLO." "LAZLO was first," she said. "But the manifest listed 12. 12 targets, all NATO-connected, scheduled over the next 8 months." Ethan absorbed this. The cold air. The distant sound of the city. the faint music still leaking from the Palais behind them. 12, he said. LAZLO was 1. Vera nodded. 11 remain. And Bryce? Still free, she said. Untouched. The account trails are evidence. But he has 3 governments worth of protection. It will take time. Time that 11 people may not have. Ethan looked up at the Vienna sky. Gray. Low. The kind of sky that promised more cold weather was coming. He thought about Bucharest, his apartment, the bakery smell every morning, his run along the river, the cafe on the corner, the quiet life he had built out of discipline and distance. He thought about all of it for a long time. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. An unknown number. A message. No words, just a list. 11 names. And a single line beneath them. You already know what comes next. Ethan stared at the screen. He looked up at Vera. She was watching him, waiting. He put the phone in his pocket. I'm going to need a new name, he said, for the next stop. Vera exhaled. Where? Ethan looked at the list once more in his mind. The second name, the city beside it. Prague, he said. They walked into the dark. Ambassador Nikolai LAZLO finished his dinner that night. He gave a short, gracious speech about the importance of alliances, about the world's need for trust between nations. He received a warm applause. He went home. He would never know how close he had come. Karl Dice was arrested by Vienna police. He said nothing. Marco Ferris was handed to Interpol under circumstances no one officially explained. He said less. General Warren Bryce issued a statement the following morning expressing concern about security lapses at the summit. He was not arrested. Not yet. And somewhere between Vienna and the Czech border, a man with no name worth saying and a woman who asked no permission from the world were moving toward the next name on a list. 11 names. 11 lives that didn't know they were marked. 11 chances to do something that no official channel was going to do in time. The man who sent them that note was still unknown, still watching, and had chosen them for a reason. A reason that neither of them fully understood yet, but they would. Eventually, they always did. The quiet life was over, and the work had only just begun. End of Part 1. What comes next? Part 2. Prague. The second name on the list. A target who knows they're being hunted and has decided to fight back. And the first real glimpse of who is behind the notes and why they chose Ethan Cole specifically. If this cinematic thriller has kept you hooked, kindly like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more.